All right, we're back. Last time we set up our pivot point to make sure everything was set to go, and we also made sure that our center line is ready for mirroring. Today, we are going to mirror it and then adjust the UV just a little bit to make sure that we can make the shirt have a equal, or have the shirt on the front not be mirrored. That way we can do something all the way across the front without having it mirror. So let's start. So we've got our setup, everything's set to 0, 0, 0, everything's good. I'm gonna move this over. We need to mirror it. So mirroring is actually really easy as long as you set everything up. So make sure you have the entire object selected. Make sure that nothing is selected over here. We've talked about all the sub-object selection options. If I select something like this and then mirror, it can go bad. Okay, there's a bunch of different things. If I add a modifier to this right now, let's say unwrap. If I add an unwrap modifier, this little shape right here is saying that in the editable poly section, I only want the unwrap UVW modifier to affect what I have selected. So this can be extremely frustrating because you may want to edit something and you won't be able to because it's not selected. Okay, so make sure, this used to be a much larger problem before, but for now, let's just make sure that nothing is selected when we add any modifiers to the object. Okay, so make sure no sub-object is selected, no faces, elements, polygons, vertices, nothing. Now, what we're gonna do is mirror it. So I'm just gonna click the mirror button, which will give me an axis to mirror across. Now, if you built this in the front view, the axis you're going to want to build, or you will want to mirror on, is the x-axis. All right, and the offset is used if our offset needs to be moved. So if the object needs to move off of the center line for some reason, but it shouldn't. So you shouldn't need to mess with this because you made sure that you built your object at 0, 0, 0. So clone selection. We are going to set it to copy, which will give us a copy of the other side, and then the mirror IK will leave. So click OK, and now we have two separate objects. We have this object and this object. If you try to weld them, you cannot because they're separate objects. Also, you'll notice I have one object called M character for mesh underscore character, and on the other one is M character 001. That's not what we want to call it. We want our original piece. We want our original name. So let's go ahead and select our original one, and we're going to attach the other side. So the attach is under edit geometry. Your edit geometry may be minimized, so click this little button here and find attach. Now we have to select the piece we want to attach to, which is the new piece, the 001 piece. We click that. Now we're good to go. I can deselect the attach button, hit Q, and actually I can hit 1. And if I grab a bunch of vertices, or even faces, probably easier to see. If I grab faces, I grab all of it. Before, I would have only grabbed the piece that I had already. So now we still have a problem. If you don't weld this center line together, you're not going to be able to weld it together in the UV. So we need to make sure that we actually weld our center line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to deselect polygon, I'm going to select border, and I'm going to hit Control, let's click somewhere, anywhere, and hit Control A. This will select our holes. Now, even though the object looks like it's connected, it is not. If I grab by element, just for giggles, you don't have to do this part. If I grab by element and drag it, it just comes right off. That's not good. I want it to stretch. So if I grab by, sort of like if I grab by polygon and move it, see how it stretches? That's what I want. So once again, grab border, Control A. So I grab all the borders. I'm going to convert all of these borders to vertex. So what I've done is I've grabbed the vertices on this side, and I've grabbed all the vertices on the other side. So I have 44 vertices in total. That means each one of these, if we look close, if I grab this one right here, it looks like 1, but it's actually 2. If you don't have your numbers set up, make sure you hit number 7 on the number line to make sure you can see it. That toggles it on and off. And if you don't have the M character, which means what you have selected, have it counting the selection, you click here, configure viewports, statistics, and then I usually leave triangle, edge, vertex, and total and selection. This should already be set up in your Mac Start file. Anyway, if it's not, you can download the Mac Start file from the folder that you got this file from. Okay, cool. So anyway, where were we? Oh yes, grabbing the border. Control A, grab the whole border, and then right click, convert to vertex. So as I said before, all of these vertices look like one, but they're actually two, which we already checked, and you can see that I have 44 vertices. What I want to do is I want to weld all these vertices together. So I'm going to go to weld settings. I'm going to move it over so we can see it better. I'm going to leave the settings to 0.01. Because I've set everything up perfectly, it should automatically weld together. Currently currently in the entire setup I have 266. Afterwards I'll have 244. 66 minus 44 is 22, which is half of 44. So you should, if you click OK, have 22 vertices, which is exactly half, which means each vertice that was overlapping, that was 2, is now 1. We can double check that real quick by grabbing one and looking, and it is 1. So now if I grab from the front view and I grab by element, number 1, I'll grab the whole thing. Number 2, if I grab by vertex or polygon, if I drag it out, it comes and stretches, which is what I want. So that means the whole thing has now been mirrored properly. Cool. Now, remember when we looked at the UV before, let's deselect the polygon. Under modifier list, hit UN, unwrap UV, go to the UV editor. Now, as before, my UV is all set up because I did half of it already. Now, this is fine except for the fact that whatever I do on the front of the shirt has to be symmetrical. As a matter of fact, everything has to be symmetrical. That's fine for my face because the face is going to be symmetrical. That's fine for the pants and the shirt and everything else. But for the sleeves and the crotch area and all that stuff is fine, except for the front of the shirt. I want the front of the shirt to have, I don't know, maybe a logo that goes all the way across it. And the way we're going to do that is take this section, we're going to grab by element, we're going to grab one of these sections. Now, you'll notice that I grabbed this front side of the shirt. Just so happened when I click on it, I grabbed it. All right? I think it's random. So, I need to figure out which side I can grab. So if I grab this one, that is the character's right side. I want to move this over, and you can see it move. This is the character's left side. Now, remember, when we planar map things, we're planar mapping it from the front. So this side is properly set up, and this side is inverted. The way we can easily see that is go to select inverted polygons. If this doesn't show up, it's because you don't have polygon selected. If you don't have polygon selected and you go to select, you're not going to be able to select it. Select polygon, select inverted polygons. So all of this stuff is inverted because, just like I said before, we did the UV first before we mirrored it. So now all of these pieces are actually on top of it. One piece is inverted and on top of the other piece. And all that's going to be fine because it allows us to fit more space or more stuff into a smaller space. But this one is not going to be okay. Now you'll notice that I actually thought ahead and I left extra space in this UV for this reason. But what I need to do now is we found out before, select inverted, that this one here is inverted, right? And it makes sense that it's inverted because I've got a nice straight line through here, and this is where the shoulder splits right there. So the whole thing is flipped. What I need to do is come up to here to mirror vertically selected subobjects. If you click and hold, you actually get a bunch of different options. You can mirror or flip. Any one of these is fine, as long as it looks like this one or the top one. As long as it looks like a butterfly flying up, it will work. Oops. See, actually, it won't. I want it to look like that. So sort of like a butterfly. By doing that, I've flipped the whole object. So now it is facing the right direction. If I go to select inverted, neither of these gets selected, which is great. I need to make sure I fit this inside our UV space, but I also need to weld it together first. So to weld this together, first I'm going to put it close to the other piece. as close as I can get it without being crazy. Then I'm going to select edges, grab one of these. Don't marquee select because then it won't work, but only just find generally where it is and click. That gets one of them. It doesn't really matter which one because we put them close together, and we're going to stitch to average. By clicking on that button, this turns white and that is now stitched. Same here. Click, click. I did the top and the bottom because if you do the top and the bottom of one edge, so if I do this one and this one, this will automatically weld. See, so now it's pure white all the way through. So now when I select element, I get the whole thing. Now just for giggles, I'm going to go tools, relax, poly, do that, and it should just barely move a little bit. And that is where we want it to be. So I'm going to move this in here, and you'll notice I've got space in my UV because I had left it out. I had left it there initially. You may not have thought ahead. That's okay. If you didn't, I mean, obviously you're doing this character this time, but if you didn't think ahead, you can always rearrange stuff now. You just need to make sure you're grabbing the entire section so that you're moving it together, and then you'll be just fine. All right? Okay, cool. So today, 10-minute-ish, it looks like 12-minute video. We mirrored our character, we adjusted our UV, and now we are almost ready to go. Next video, we are going to take this UV and drop it into Photoshop and draw on it. Okay? Cool. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video where we do a little Photoshop work.